So Taylor, have you ever been in a bar fight?
Can't say I have.
Okay. Have you ever seen a bar fight?
Also can't say I have.
Okay. Well, metaphorically, that's what we saw tonight here at the Cars Tour race here at Caraway, which is where we're at in Sophia, North Carolina. I don't know who Sophia is, but confetti cannons to her. Now, if you're in that bar fight, do you think you would go up and yell at the owner of the bar?
Probably not.
No, it doesn't really seem like it makes a whole lot of sense. Again, these are all metaphors. You're going to have to put the pieces together, and that just kind of hooks you in to watch the entire show. There's confetti all over the place. Jared Fryar got a lot of that tonight. Taylor, what is this?
This is Wednesday night, and this is On Tour from Caraway starting now.
Everyone wants to be there on Sunday, but as every short tracker will tell you, there is no Sunday without Saturday night. And every week, all across the nation, late models own Saturday night. This is the ballad of the sport's backbone, its hometown, its weekly star, and its greatest racing. This is Saturday night. This is On Tour. Welcome back to On Tour. My name is Buddy Pulley. I head up the late model coverage here on ATYL Media. And I'm joined today by the one who heads up everything at ATYL Media, Taylor Kitchen, fresh off her Cars Tour debut, if you will, right? Obviously, the Cars Tour was at Caraway this past Wednesday. It's Taylor's first Cars Tour race, and obviously a big night for the tour in general. Taylor, first off, thank you for coming on. And second off, what is your takeaways from your first Cars Tour race?
First off, excited to be here. Thanks for having me. Second, no, it was really fun. I was on pit road. I was shadowing the legend, James Pike, just seeing what that's like to kind of do pit reporting and stuff like that, which was super cool. But the Cars Tour is always so fun. You have up and coming stars. You have drivers like, Landon Lewis, very prevalent just within the motorsports space. You got Landon Huffman, who is not only a great driver, but also a great personality. You see him on YouTube. So it's kind of a culmination of like all these different personalities and drivers from different like backgrounds, kind of different philosophies of how, they go about racing. And it's cool to kind of see that kind of compound at a short track level. It was a lot of fun, challenging. It was a bit hot that day. The rain helped kind of calm things down a little bit, luckily. But overall, pretty good first experience.
Awesome. And you mentioned you were pit reporting. That was obviously your first time pit reporting. Give me a rundown of that. Like, you run around with your hair on fire, I would imagine.
Yeah, no, it was information overload, which was the funny thing is, like, I was like, okay, this is going to be super stressful. It's going to be whatever. It was stressful. But I think what was so nice about it is James really kind of gave me like set tasks of things to do, like different driver audio to listen to. What was really cool was for the late model stock race, a lot of the information I gave him was actually turned into pit reports. So I had a hand in what kind of went on the broadcast too, which was really cool. I was not expecting, but it was cool. Like before the race to go around and talk to a few drivers. Didn't get to do a whole lot of that because a lot of practice was rained out and just with how scheduling worked out on Wednesday. But a lot of it was just listening to the radio. And then I was trying to listen to the broadcast. My radio wasn't working for that. So it was like thinking on the fly. That's what a lot of pit reporting is. And James did a good job of also thinking on the fly too, with some technical issues as well. But it is a lot of running around with your hair on fire. A lot of it is like, as soon as a wreck happens, it's like, okay, where are they on pit road? And let's find them. But it was a really cool experience. And I'm definitely hoping to do a lot more.
Yeah, it was really cool to see you out there doing that, because I know that's, something that you were, interested in doing, and just to know that, like, you're watching that broadcast on Flow, that, hey, Taylor Kitchen had a hand in like some of the information you all were getting. So that's pretty cool. And you learn where the Nelson Motorsports trailer was.
No, 100%. I learned so much about literally everything. And what I will say too is the whole Flow team was so kind and so welcoming, and even to the Cars Tour, shout out to Carson Elledge for green lighting all of this, Dan from Flow for making it all happen, just because it's not an easy thing to get greenlit, and you're kind of encroaching on a live broadcast, and like the last thing you want to do is step on toes or make things harder for the crew because they have to work around you. But didn't feel like that was the case. Good to catch up with Eric Brennan again, and some of our other friends of ATYL Media and stuff like that. But learned a lot. lots more I still got to learn, but I got a good intro to Cars Tour, even to some of the chaos that happens in the Cars Tour too this weekend.
Yeah, we'll definitely get into all of that. Speaking of chaos, the Pro Late Model race was obviously preluded the late model stock race. We normally won't talk too much about pros, but we're going to get into that sphere mainly because of a big race that's coming up, which will be the next episode of On Tour. We'll get to that in a little bit. The Pro Late Model race was a bit of a, for the lack of better term, she show. There towards the end, we had it was Ben Mayer and Cody Ware up there battling for the win, as well as Tyler Reif. Some contact was made, as one does. Some blocks were attempted and not quite pulled off by drivers up at the front, and it ended up with Brandon Lopez scoring the victory. What did I describe it of? A hodgepodge of chaos before we started, something like that. Yeah. But yeah, big win for Brandon Lopez. Obviously, he kind of picked it up right after his teammate got turned, teammate Tyler Reif, and took home the victory. You had a story that you wanted to share with us about our second place finisher.
Yeah, talking about Brody Gunter, I mean, a great second place for him because he doesn't know when his next Pro Late Model race is going to be. He's not sure what's next on the schedule for him, but that was his fourth time in that car. So still very, very new to doing all of this, and to just be able to, one, survive the chaos, and two, race your way into a position to where you could finish the race on the podium was a big deal. He was very emotional during the post-race interview. You could tell how much it meant to him. His family was there. They were freaking out, like phones out recording. Like I'm assuming like it was his parents, like their son, just like doing the post-race interview and stuff. It was so cool to like see that emotion, because I think from my perspective, covering a lot of NASCAR races, you don't get to see that emotion at that level really anymore, because it just, a win is expected for a lot of those guys.
Exactly.
But at this level, especially with the podium finish, I'm just going to call it for Brody, like that was basically a win for him, which was so cool to see. So hopefully with that good result, hopefully it leads towards more consistent opportunities for him in that car or at this level, because I think being able to survive all that, it's warranted.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's something too to be said, because this was a Wednesday night show. There were a lot of NASCAR personalities out there. Like this was, probably underrated as far as how big of a night this was for drivers to get their talents in front of, the NASCAR garage. I mean, we saw Bobby Abani walking around. He was obviously helping out with Max Reeves in the late model stock race. Harvick was there. Bozy, we saw him walking around there. Yeah. So a lot of, the personalities that normally, you don't see at the Cars Tour level, they're able to make it out on a Wednesday and, just have a second place finish, or, in Lopez's case, get the win. It's a big deal for these guys.
No, it definitely turns heads. And like you said, when there are NASCAR personalities that are able to show up to the race, you want to put on your best show, because you never know either who's looking maybe for a driver to join maybe a development program. You never know who's looking for a driver for like a really big interview, for a technical breakdown, whatever that is. Exactly. You want to put your best foot forward. And the same goes to even like when you were at North Wilkesboro. It was a big deal for those guys to be seen by the entirety of the NASCAR garage at the highest level. Same thing goes for this. And also a midweek race for the Cars Tour as well, going into this holiday week. It's just fun to go to. It's something to do like as you're approaching the holiday weekend. And just because it is a midweek race, it allows some guys that might be at the NASCAR level, like Cody Ware, to compete as well. I know Cody Ware in his race didn't go great for him.
I did not. No.
All things considered. No.
Yeah.
But to have a big brand name like Arby's on his car too, I know huge. Like deals and partners or whatever, but huge to see that at the Cars Tour level too.
Absolutely.
So again, you have these opportunities on the Wednesdays to get those things done. Maybe have big visibility for big partners. I think it was overall a win.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned Cody Ware. He may have had the meets, but I think other people had the beef with him. Moving on to the late model stock race. It was Jared Fryar taking home the victory. Another win by Jared Fryar this year. He won earlier at Orange County, as we know. And, there's something to be said about that, because Jared is not a regular on the tour. He's obviously, a veteran of late model stock racing. But, we documented all season long how difficult the Cars Tour is and how competitive it is. And for him to not do this every week and to come out here and win. And I mean, he was obviously competitive all night, qualified up front. He was, one of the few that could take the fight to the three guys that we'll talk about later. Just a big win for Jared Fryar.
And with Jared Fryar, I was listening to his radio for most of that race, and he was just smart, methodical, and patient. He did a very good job of managing his brakes, managing his tires. That was the consistent note over the radio of like, buddy, you're doing a good job. Don't see a lot of glow on the brakes. That's good. There was one point after that first break over the radio where he just wasn't making any progress forward as he would have wanted to. I think at one point that was like Landen Lewis passed him for position. If I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong there, but he got passed for position by some other driver. And he was frustrated, couldn't make out what he was saying over the radio. But then over the radio, crew chief, whoever it may be, was like, hey, we've got what we've got at this point. Like, we've made our bed. This is the car. Let's just go after it. But as the race continued on, the car came back to him. And obviously he was able to survive, but also maintain position enough to where he was able to win the race. So very impressed by his drive. Obviously frustration over the radio with how the car was, but didn't seem to panic under that pressure and made the most out of it. A good win for him, like you said, especially for somebody who's not full-time in the tour.
Yeah. It's the old saying, luck is just when preparation meets opportunity. And they prepared a really good race car, showed up at the track fast as they always are. And when opportunity presented itself, Jared Fryar was able to scoot through for the victory. Obviously, we'll talk about the events that led to that here in just a few minutes. But first, let's talk to our winner, Jared Fryar, about his night, what he saw out the windshield, and how difficult it is to do just that, show up to the Cars Tour not on a weekly basis and come out and win.
It just seems my hard racing, and then unfortunately they kind of locked wheels there and got hooked together and slid up the racetrack there. I felt like the 81 was a little aggressive tonight, more than I've seen in the past. It wasn't the first time they had a little run-in, so it didn't surprise me at all when it did happen. So it obviously, it kind of played my favor and let us, slide to the win there. I felt like, and everybody at AK Performance, Kendall Mumford has really put in the time, and things have just been clicking with us. They put a lot of hours in. We got, really good race cars, RNS race cars, and John West race engines, and my experience, I feel like, has really helped a lot. It's just like this weekend, we didn't come test yesterday, and we rained out a lot of practice days, so we only had 12 laps. So that was kind of cool to have such a good car and win a race like that,
So when I talked to Jared after the race, he actually cut the interview off a little bit too quick. He asked me to let everybody know his crew did a hell of a job and all weekend long with the circumstances they were under, only getting a couple laps of practice and testing and whatnot. So shout out to the whole 14 crew for that. And with that, let's take a look at the rest of the results from Caraway. Taking a look at the results from the Firecracker 265 at Caraway Speedway, it was Jared Fryar scoring the victory, his second of the Cars Tour season. As if the competition isn't stiff enough competing week to week, like Jared Fryar, Truck Series competitor Caden Honeycutt is part-time on the tour, making his runner-up finish that much more impressive.
Yeah, it's definitely hard, especially for our team that don't run every week. So I'm just really proud of my guys, man. Thanks to Cook Electric, RNS Race Cars, Fayetteville Eaton and Air, Windside Development, Chevrolet, and everybody that supports our deal. I appreciate them very much. So, it's not easy, especially since we don't run the same car every week. All the time. But it's been good. I really struggled tonight with this drive overall, and we kind of feel like that was lacking from. So. We were sitting on the front stretch and already discussing what we're going to do differently. So I'm pretty happy with it. I'm glad that I finally got on the right side of luck this time. I've had stuff like that happen to me, and every time that I've ran up front the past couple of times. So just glad to get that out of the way and come home second.
A gritty performance from 15-year-old Tristan McKee. He rebounds from an early incident to finish third. Ronnie Bassett Jr. comes across the line in the fourth position, and Doug Barnes Jr. with a strong top 5 finish. Chase Burrow, the Langley winner, finishes 6th. Donovan Strauss with a strong top 10. He finishes 7th. Cade Brown in the championship hunt beats out his championship compadres, finishing 8th. Carson Lofton finishes 9th, and Brandon Ward will round out our top 10. Some other notables, championship leader coming in, Connor Hall, with a subpar night. He qualified 20th and could only salvage a 12th place finish. His championship rival just behind him, Landen Lewis, leading late in the going and triggers a restart crash that would derail his night. Parker Eatman, Andrew Grady, Laney Bice, and Brandon Pierce, all full-time competitors, all outside the top 15. Landon Huffman collected in the restart crash with Landen Lewis. He finishes 20th. Connor Jones with issues. He finishes in the 23rd position. And Mini Tyrrell, dominant performance, but as well as Lewis and Huffman, he gets caught up in the restart crash, finishing 24th. Jared Fryar took home the victory, but it was on the heels of some controversy. Obviously, if you look at the results, you see Landen Lewis, Mini Tyrrell, Landon Huffman, they're a little bit further down the leaderboard than they once were. Restart with about 20 laps to go after the last competition caution. Lewis and Tyrrell on the front row. Lewis to the inside, pushes up into Tyrrell. Those two make contact and crash. Landon Huffman, innocent bystander, gets taken out of the race and takes all three of them out of contention for the win. Those are all the facts we have, but we do have words from all the drivers involved. So let's hear what they had to say about the controversial restart.
I can't give you an honest answer until I go back and really look at the replay and understand really what happened. I think it was, from the outside looking in, I've heard a bunch of different stuff, and I just can't put my head around it of what actually happened. So I need to go back and look at the replay and give a fair answer, a fair, honest opinion once I know really what happened.
We were racing pretty hard, and I didn't really appreciate it. He doored me pretty good on the last restart, getting into turn one, and which he should. He's trying to race for the win. So he's playing games on a restart. Did it like 2 times in a row, and it's like speed up and then slam on the brakes. And even after that, I still beat him on the restart, and then went off into turn one and just pitched him down a little bit to the line, which anyone should when you got the advantage getting into the corner and you're on the top. And we just got to the center of the corner, and Rodney come over to me, apologized, said he just got tight and just hit my left rear. So it's like I said, it's the nature of the racetrack. It's a racing deal. I've done it to people. We all make mistakes, so I'm not gonna sit here and bash him. I like their whole organization. I like him. He's a good kid, and it just sucks. It's hard. I can't really sit here and be lying to you if I said I could afford to fix this thing. So I'm gonna have to really try to scrape together some help to do it. So just sucks. I just can't afford to keep tearing up race cars.
Two guys that shouldn't run over each other. It looked like the 21 got beat on the restart, then lost his brain, drove down in here and ran all over the 81, took us out. So unfortunate. He won't win a championship like that, no matter how much money they spend. So.
And you had some words with Kevin Harvick. What exactly was said?
Landon was hiding in the trailer, and I just wanted to ask Landon what happened. I wanted him to tell me what happened before I, said anything of my own. And Kevin asked me why I wanted to talk to him after I told him I wanted to talk to Landon, and I said because he drove down in here and crashed us. And Kevin said, well, the 51 chopped him. I said, no, he didn't. No, he didn't. And Kevin said, well, I'm not driving the car. And I said, I understand, but that's why I come down here to talk to the driver.
So Taylor, obviously you were working this race. What did you hear and see when this restart occurred and this whole debacle took place?
Well, from where I was standing on pit road, I was standing towards the end of pit road, like around turn 4, and was able to see the drivers kind of getting a launch on that restart. Wasn't able to see turn 1 in the chaos. All I heard was just gasps from the crowd in the audience. Yeah. But I was listening to Landen Lewis's radio talking about it all, and he just said that he got tight under the 81. That was really it. That seems to be the assessment from everyone, if that's what happened. Now, was he too aggressive? Hey, you're going for a win. I think aggression is warranted 100%. Obviously we had talked about, him being pretty close to the points lead, battling back and forth with Connor Hall. For the points lead. Mm-hmm. And it's a matter of, if you're that close to a race win, do you risk it? And, and I say, sure, go for it, but I just hate to see how it ended. Mini Tyrrell's dominant performance that day. Landon Huffman, like you said, and an innocent bystander there. But over the radio, it was just got tight, and then it was lips sealed. Let's get to work. Let's see if we can fix the car, get back on track, and that was pretty much all she wrote.
Yeah, it was. It's one of those things that you kind of look back at history between drivers. Landon Lewis all year long has been he's been very clean, very consistent, and he has been a very model driver as far as how you race others. And that can be said for Mini Tyrrell and Landon Huffman. You heard Tyrell say that in his interview. They've always raced each other clean as well. But if you think back to last year, Landon Lewis, there were a few incidents, when he was in that 62 car, particularly at Wake County last year with his teammate. And this is just my opinion. It seemed a little bit vintage Landon Lewis. We forget a lot of times how young these guys are and how truly inexperienced they are. We judge them like they're NASCAR Cup Series drivers, and that's not maybe the right reaction to it. But you do have to analyze it, and I saw maybe a bit of a overzealous Landon Lewis there on that last restart, and I think there could have been a little bit more give and take. And it's a saying that I heard from his owner: to finish first, you first must finish. And I think that rings true for sure. You heard Mini Tyrrell speak in that interview too about how he's tore up a lot of things this year and how he is worried about his ability to make it to the next race with the damage to his car from Caraway and then the damage to his other car still from Ace 2 months ago. Taylor, this is something that we don't see in top level NASCAR. They're not worried about making it to the next race. You obviously are very ingrained in short track racing, maybe not the Cars Tour, but you do a lot of stuff with Racing America. What's your opinion on this, and how do you view this as far as some of these smaller teams making it to the track every week and how important they are?
Yeah, I mean, with Racing America, a lot of the races that we cover, it really is just your local short tracks with all these families that want to go compete. There's always a father-son duo, I swear, in every race I cover, maybe an uncle's thrown in there or something like that. I mean, it's a huge family affair. But with that said, too, these families are they're not rich most of the time, right? They don't have the money saved behind just to be I junked a race car, fine. And that's why you see a lot of those tempers is because, man, that car, I spent a crap ton of my savings on that car. I got to feed 4 kids or whatever. There's a lot that goes into it. So when one of your cars is junked, it causes panic. It can be game over. I don't know where to turn. I'm not going to be able to race, because some of these drivers too, a lot of them have day jobs, but a lot of them also rely on maybe winnings from a race or something like that to pay some of the bills, right? So when you get to these certain levels and you have cars that get junked, it is really disappointing. But you also think too, the experience level at these short tracks is also very different. So you're going to have some oopsies or bad moments where an inexperienced guy might accidentally run into you. So you also have to take that into account. Now with the Cars Tour, what's so interesting here, and I hate to do this, so I'm sorry, buddy, but I equate it a little bit to ARCA in the sense that you do have some variables in cost, in resources for these teams. Not as crazy, I don't believe, from the outside looking in as what ARCA is, where you have one standout team and the rest just don't even come close. But with the Cars Tour, you're also going to see that too, where KHI, they have a crap ton of resources. Obviously, you have, Kevin Harvick on your team, huge name. I know you have some of the Hornaday stuff roped into there too with the Hornaday development program. So you have a crap ton of resources to make these drivers super successful. I know Landon works so hard. Really, really nice kid. He wants nothing but the best, and he has a lot of pressure on him because of all the people around him. And I think that pressure can cause maybe some poor decision making because you want to go for wins. That's what's expected of you. But that said, they had an entire crew, a slew of people from all over just working on the car. And with Minis, you had people looking at the car, but it clearly was not a mob on the KHI equipment. So you see that and you're okay, you vary the resources, you vary what you see. And for Mini to, how competitive as he is, being a race winner already this year, and to know how much work he puts into it, to say, hey, I don't know if we're going to make it to Hickory because I don't know if we can fund a car. That sucks. And part of me hopes that, he'll find a partner or maybe a fellow competitor can help him out. I don't know what it is. These drivers always seem to make it work somehow, right?
Yeah.
But you hate to see it when it was just them both going for the win. But like he said in his interview, like no ill will towards Landen Lewis. They've competed with each other fine in the past. He said Landon is like a standout guy, likes competing with him. It's just a racing deal. But sometimes your wallet can't account for those racing deals. And you hate to see it.
Yeah, and absolutely. And that's with Mini, you look at his car and it's, Mini's Tire and Auto and, a lot of his things and, just people that support Mini, not from obviously everything's a business decision, but it's more like, hey, we really care about Mini Tyrrell making, this dream happen for him. And so it's disappointing when things like this happen. You look at like Landon Huffman, for instance. I mean, they were talking about coming into Caraway after his incident at South Boston in the 200. He was worried he was going to have to bring out his own car, and he was worried about this exact situation, maybe tearing up his own equipment too. So you bring up a really good point about the varying in resources there. And I think that's one thing that's, maybe frustrated Landon Huffman. You saw him go down and speak with Kevin Harvick is, hey, yes, we have Carroll Speed Shop. It's a prominent name in late model racing, but it's still, it's a lot different than maybe, a KHI or JRM. And that's not to discount any of the hard work that any of those teams do, because you see Landen Lewis puts his blood, sweat, and tears into that. And so that's why I'm a little bit more lenient on a guy like that, on a guy like Landon, just because on a guy like Landen Lewis, let's be clear, there's 3 of them. But because, he's not someone who shows up with a helmet back. He is working hard on these cars.
And what I will say about Landon too, just because I'd worked with him in the past, is he is not a driver where things are just handed to him. That is something I had really appreciated about Landon. He is very, very open to feedback. He is very open to learning. He is very polite. He is very much head down. I'm going to get to work. He's great with his partners. Like he is the model of a driver that you want to see succeed, not based off of daddy's money, not based off of whatever. He has great people behind him, but it's not based off of his wallet. It's based off of his character and his drive. And that is something that stuck out to me immediately when I met Landon and when I was able to work with him through Team Hornaday development. And I'm really hoping as he refines his racecraft, he does get more opportunities to run full-time in truck, if that's kind of the route he wants to take, which I think it is, and then go beyond that. But great people behind him. You just, you clean up the mistakes. He's still very young. You're going to make mistakes on or off the track, and you just you go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that was one of the first things he said in his interview was, I want to see the replay because I want to know what actually happened and give you a fair answer and learn from it. So respect that a lot. You mentioned before that, he's in the thick of a championship battle with Connor Hall. And obviously this could have been a huge night for Lewis to capitalize. Connor qualified 20th, ran back half of the top 15 most of the night. And it seemed as though Landon was going to gain a boatload of points on him. That obviously did not happen. I asked Lewis about that, and he reluctantly gave me a very good answer about that. He's been very steadfast about wins, but here's what he had to say.
I mean, it sucks. I mean, it sucks when you don't capitalize on those moments, but if we would have won the race, we wouldn't be talking like this. We'd be talking somewhere else about something else. So it just sucks at the end of the day that when he does have a bad night, we don't capitalize on it. And when, we have a bad night, they capitalize on it. So the point stuff, I'm not really worried about it, to be honest with you. We still got plenty of racing left. A lot of things could go different in the next couple races. So I'm here to win races, and that's all of our attitudes is we win races, the points will take care of themselves.
So obviously this incident late in the race shook up the points. This has been a topic of discussion all year long for different reasons, but race procedure in the Cars Tour. If you guys are unfamiliar with how it works, basically prior to 20 laps to go, if we run 40 laps green, 40 laps without a natural yellow, we will throw a competition caution, and we will continue to do that, like I said, up until 20 laps to go. Caution laps do not count in the Cars Tour. And there's been some discussion this year, especially like after Cordeal, where we ran an exorbitant amount of caution laps that caused a lot of guys to run out of gas. This is a different scenario where, maybe it comes under scrutiny because this restart that happened with, 20, I guess we said 20 to go, it was actually 25 to go, is when that last competition caution came out. Do we need these cautions? Because things like this happen where we end up with a points contender ending up, crashed out. We end up with a guy like Mini Tyrrell in a, tough position, and Landon Huffman, poor guy, can't catch a break. And, so Taylor, I'm interested because obviously, like we said, you cover a lot of short track racing. What are some other procedural things that you see, and do you have any ideas on, maybe something we could do differently?
Yeah, I think there's a positive and negative to counting and not counting caution laps, right? I think not counting them, especially if the race is shorter, allows ample time for competition to actually happen, for drivers to actually work their way through the field. Let's say a feature race. A lot of the races I cover, the feature is like 25 laps, 50 laps. If it's a big late model feature, it's like 100 laps, something like that. But it allows them to actually compete. Now, where it gets messy is, let's say you have a 50 lap feature. That should typically be over if you're at like a track that's like a short track, should be over like within like an hour, something like that.
Yeah.
I've seen races before where there's a 50 lap feature. It takes about 2.5, 3 hours to finish because we're counting cautions, because we want them to get the competition in, and it's just messy.
Yeah.
And you see within those races, sometimes they're like, okay, we're going to do single file restarts because all the chaos happens on the restarts. Or, you know what, we got to get this next feature in. So we're going to pause this, do the next feature, and we're going to tag these people in at the tail end of the evening because y'all just couldn't finish the race. So there's pros and cons to it depending on. I am in the kind of category of, let's not count caution laps, but put a time limit on the feature. That way, if you guys cannot get it together to run a cohesive, clean feature, that is then on you. I think when you have a timer on it, it encourages the drivers to either clean it up or to continue panicking and wrecking and whatever. But on most of the time, you see that they're like, okay, shoot, now there's a timer on it. I have to work my way towards the front. But if I want to work my way towards the front, we need green flag laps. So the only way to do that is to race clean. So I'm in that mindset of, let's not count the cautions, I guess, because it allows ample time for competition, but maybe put a time limit on it. I know that's more tricky with the cars touring at that level. But the other thing too is, gas costs money, right? And the more you run these caution laps and the more you have that, it's another expense that these teams have to pay when you have somebody like Mini Tyrrell who's like, I don't know if I can put my car together. Now, all things considered, gas versus fixing a car, gas is going to cost way less, right? Yeah. But it still is something added on for these teams. So I'm curious from your perspective what you think, but part of me thinks like, maybe, I don't know, if there's like a not points paying race, which I don't think happens, like us maybe try to just not count the cautions. Or at that case, if you want to have a race that's a good, decent, maybe hour and a half length, then maybe just add more laps to it, but then count the cautions. There's ways to counteract it, I guess, but it's going to take some brainstorming depending on if people really see it as a problem, if there needs to be a solution or not.
Yeah, in my opinion, it's all about managing chaos. Obviously, when it comes to the competition caution deal with the Cars Tour, where there's not a natural yellow, but we set up this restart that causes these issues. You look at it as, obviously, the reason we have competition cautions. You're at a local racetrack. You're gonna attract those diehard Cars Tour fans or these diehard racing fans that want to come out and watch. But you're also attracting, the local market who are just looking for something to do on a Saturday night, right? And so you want to keep them entertained. So, if we throw the green flag on a 125 lap feature and it goes 125 laps green, then, okay, is that person, who's a casual, which should not cater to the casual fan, but we do want to draw them in, is that going to bring them back? So you throw competition cautions there, as well as, comes down to equipment. 125 laps, hard green flag racing for the Cars Tour, that's hard on equipment as well. So it's all a balance there, but you don't want to see what happened on Wednesday night.
No, and I think about this too. Just obviously not a Cars Tour event, but I'm thinking back to Florence what was this, November?
Yeah.
When Dale Jr. ran and everything like that. And we had all these feature races ahead of the main event. And this is the one thing that really pisses me off is we do all of these local series, which they are very important. They're the backbone of short track racing, these local series, local tracks, local track championships. I believe they are so important. But we put the feature race at the end of the night or the second to last race of the night to get people to watch these local series. And then they're caution ridden because they're drivers that are still learning how to compete. And then you're shying away your audience. It was like 17 degrees at Florence. It was cold as crap. And we were sitting through all of these local features and I'm like, oh my God, like it's caution after caution. It's not going to end. And by the time we got back to where we're located, it was like 2-ish, 3 in the morning. We were exhausted. And so my thing too is like, if we're not going to count cautions, and at some point, I think there was a timer on some features. I don't really fully remember that, but it was the not counting cautions that killed, and it kills the excitement and momentum to a main event, to the feature race. And so that's something else to take into consideration too. When you do mention the more casual crowd, which Florence was a majorly just casual crowd. Absolutely. Really, a lot of them are just there to see Dale. So again, just wanted to back up on that point too. Very, very valid. And that's something that, you got to think about as you're building an audience or something like that.
Yeah. I hate, bringing up issues and not, being able to present a solution. But, I think there is something to be said about we don't need to put these guys in more positions to tear up equipment at the end of these races.
Exactly.
But you do have to balance that entertainment. What do I think could be a procedural change that they need to make? I'm not sure at this moment. It's something that I mulled over after the Florence deal with the fuel, and it was that comes down to, do we count, like as you said, count caution laps in some instances? But then in this scenario, it's like, I understand the purpose of the competition cautions; it's very necessary, but how do we prevent it from ending up like this?
Well, and another procedure that I think we kind of saw in the Pro Late Model race, kind of with the incident at the end, all those drivers kind of involved in that, for the most part, were sent to the tail end of the field.
Yes.
At that point, then that could be a feasible solution that is more set in stone or is kind of put forward more, is okay if these certain guys are going to continue to bunch up, get in wrecks, etc. Then we're going to send you to the tail end to say, hey.
And we do that. We do that in the tour. I guess it's more just how to prevent,
It's like, balancing, sending a message to the competitors versus also balancing your competition and procedures. So we do have a smooth race. We are promoting green flag racing. We aren't promoting, hey, restart. That's a chance to junk your competitor to get a win. There's no promoting that. That's not what I'm trying to say, but it's more so it's when you have those game 7 moments, right? When you're like, okay, there's less than 20 to go. This restart means everything, track position, whatever. I'm going to be aggressive. You're more than likely going to cause an incident. So it's trying to balance all that, which I don't envy the Cars Tour, any racing series, whatever, that has to deal with rules and procedures. And, maybe we need to change them, maybe not, because you're never going to please everybody. But first and foremost, I think the procedures should be favorable to the competition first, and then entertainment second. We'll see. Who knows?
Yeah, and to kind of close that out, it's that competition call should change the entire complexity of the race. Not only just the incidents there, but you looked at the battle that was shaping up. The top 4 were closing in on each other, and it looked as though Landon Huffman might have been in the catbird seat to win it, but instead, he ends up with a where did old Huffman end up? In the 20th position. So, and another guy that's, trying to, contend for the Cars Tour Championship. So, tough deal there. One guy who did balance all the chaos was Tristan McKee. Had a rough go at it in the Pro Late Model race, had a throttle hang and have a big accident there. And really, did not seem to be any sort of a factor in the late model stock race leading up to through practice and qualifying. But the best drive I've ever seen out of Tristan McKee, bar none, outside of a victory, And I talked to Tristan about that and how he managed to score himself a top 3 finish.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy night. Started it off bad in the pro by obviously the throttle hung there and just destroyed the car, but I feel like we had a really good car for that. I feel like we had a winning car. I was kind of concerned with my tires. You know, I was running third and the front 2 guys were kind of sliding around. I thought we were going to be really good after we had that competition caution coming in a few laps, so I was really excited about that. I feel like we had a really good car for that. And the late model stock was kind of opposite. We struggled yesterday, lost brakes during practice yesterday, backed it in the wall, so had to fix that a little bit. Went back to the shop, changed a bunch of stuff. Came back today, still wasn't good. Changed it all back to how it was yesterday. So we were really all over the place. So we qualified almost dead last and just, put our heads down, got into a wreck on lap 10 or so, pitted, cut the fender off, cut some more stuff off, and then we just went to work, made good decisions, chose good lines on the starts, and was able to just get around a lot of people there. So that was definitely a good night. We needed that after qualifying so bad and having a rough night in the pro. So we just got to qualify better. We've done this a lot in the past few weeks. We've been finishing, I think we got 2 fourth places, qualifying like 14th and 13th. So today was 24th or so. So we just got to qualify. We're having the good finishes we need. Just gotta qualify better because we race really good. So that's about it.
Obviously, a great performance by Tristan McKee. As I said, Taylor, you were there all day. Obviously, it was a big story, him crashing out of the pro late model race and then his comeback there. What did you see from Tristan McKee all throughout the day?
Yeah, obviously the finish in the late model stock race, did not see that coming at all. To be able to have, I'm just going to say, an abysmal race for pro late, and then to have the mindset to come back in and just work for everything you've got, that shows a lot about who Tristan McKee is. Yeah. Because for me, I would get so frustrated. I mean, sometimes I'm going to drive angry and put out a great result in the lates, but for Tristan to be able to come back, survive the chaos, and finish top 3 is great. I mean, he's a very young driver. We talk about young drivers still needing to learn. He's 15 years old?
15 years old, yeah. Yeah. And let's not forget, he was involved in the first incident of the late model stock race.
Yes.
Yeah, so.
Was able to rally. Also just, a good pickup by Spire Motorsports too, one of their drivers technically here. Just really, really impressive from what he was able to do to rally back to get that result. Finishing, next to Caden Honeycutt, a Truck Series regular. Obviously Jared Fryar, who, as we talked about, doesn't compete on a normal basis. So it was a very interesting top 3. And I think for his story of the day, this is why you don't give in to just the negativity or the, well, shoot, that race sucked and whatever. Like, that for me was impressive to see that young kid just have that mindset and just go out there and get a top 3. Pretty cool.
Absolutely. And, Tristan is someone that has, come under much scrutiny before, especially last year, a lot of incidents running at the front of the field, and I'll be blunt, a lot of unnecessary incidents that didn't need to happen. And to see the turnaround that he's made this year to win, pro late model races. And now, he's competing in these late model stock races and really mirroring a veteran like Jared Fryar as in just grinding out the race and being there in position at the end to capitalize and get yourself a great finish there. So great job by Tristan McKee. That's going to do it for this episode of On Tour. I hope you guys enjoyed. Thank you so much, Taylor, for joining me. We'll get you out to some more Cars Tour races so we can get you back on the show for sure. The next episode of On Tour will follow the Hickory pro late model race, which is going to be the 3rd edition of the Harvick versus Harvick showdown. Keelan Harvick, Kevin Harvick going up against each other in the pro late model division, as I said. So that will be fun to watch there. Taylor, you have anything else?
No, I'm just hoping to go back to the car stories. That was fun. Like, I'm looking forward to it. Good to be on the show. But yeah, no, looking forward to the next episode of On Tour.
Absolutely. Yeah. Always, everyone, support your local short tracks. Follow us at ATYL Media and at the Buddy Pulley and at Above the Online for all at the track coverage. And we'll see you after Hickory.